Hey guys, I hope you are well. I am here this evening with Renee, who is going to be talking to me about love. One of those subjects that we all kind of come a part of. There's no one out there, I don't think, that's ever not been in love in some capacity, whether that's with someone in your family or some other person that you are in a relationship with or have been in a relationship with. So it covers everything. And Renee was introduced to me by our mutual friend, Vanessa. And Vanessa was like, you have to have this woman on. She's going to love what you do. And let's talk about love. So I thought, why not? And here we are. We're a week before. Is it a week before Valentine's? Is that right?
Yes, it is. It's next weekend.
Yes.
I think it's next Sunday.
Is
Let's
it?
look.
What date is it today, actually? Because this would be
Today
really weird.
let's look, it's the 6th. So we have until next, it's next Sunday
Next
is
Sunday.
Valentine's Day. So this gives everybody a chance to get ready, whether you're single or not single.
Yes.
So I have a lot of great tips for everybody.
Good.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so honored to be here.
I'm very happy you said yes.
Oh, good. Well, let's give them I have so many things to share. So you guide the way, and I'm here to help anybody out there that is looking for love or getting over, many people are brokenhearted right now during this time around the world.
Yeah.
And I've been on the phone round the clock with clients that are searching for that one true love during this time. And it is possible. So
yeah,
I have lots of tips. So where do we begin on this crazy, wonderful journey today to help everyone that's looking? I'm going to pull in a little bit.
That's looking for
love. We got to sit back and relax.
So we've got a whole kind of show going on. So it's obviously this is like the 6th. You said the 6th of February 2021. So this content is going out live now. It's going to be available on YouTube, but it's also going to be on our TV platform, which will be ready in a couple of weeks, which is our I Am Sound TV. So if you're watching this even after it is to stream live, because we're just kind of just going live here, but if you watch it afterwards, the information will still be valid, I'm sure. And Renee has a whole world of books as well that we're going to get into that you can also kind of grab her stuff on and take a deeper dive into that. So I'm kind of mini celebrating on the 8th of February is actually my own anniversary with myself. I have not had a proper boyfriend for 12 years. Can you believe? 12 years. So I've dated a few guys here or there in between, but I fell in love with someone for a good number of years. But in terms of actually having a full-on boyfriend that I can say, hey, this is my guy, nope, not since 2009 or just around that time. Yeah, this time 2009. So it's been a while, and I'm totally open. I've got no kind of blocks that I'm aware of. I'm pretty chilled and open. I am loving my work and what I do, so I spend more time on here than I do. I don't have any dating apps. It's not something that I am that fussed about. I have been on them before, but I thought I'm going to wait for the universal delivery and see what the universe brings in. And I think a lot of people are like that now. A lot of people are like, oh, dating apps, and they're kind of over them, even though that they're very popular for people. But you come across all types of different kind of scenarios with dating, I think, don't you? And you're the kind of the love coach. So can you tell us, first of all, we're going to go into a little bit more about you and your kind of background, just a short version of it. If you can just bring us up to speed on how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I was originally a wedding planner and makeover artist. And so back in Delaware, where our new president is from, of the United States is from, I grew up in an Italian family, and I was always into beauty and helping people to present themselves well. And I worked in a salon, but I also am very intuitive. So when people would come in, of course, you're working with their hair and their head, and they start telling you all of their problems, right? So I was like, God, this is really what I should be doing. Besides making them look good on the outside, help their brain. So I had been studying hypnotherapy, and back then NLP wasn't even in existence, neuro-linguistic programming, but I was studying psychology and the mind and communications and marketing. So it all kind of goes together, because as a soul, and I was studying spiritual metaphysical principles with Reverend Michael Beckwith from Agape. He's a world-known teacher of spiritual principles, which is all about the way you are really believing in what you are going to attract. And studying with him for 33 years, meditations. And so I got really deep into the healing arts. And so I consider myself a person that helps people to blast open their hearts, because it's something inside of all of us. And mostly the people that I mostly work with are people like you that work. We have a vision. We're like these missionaries, on the world. We have a mission, and this is mine, right? So I was a workaholic like you, preparing my life. I pioneered the first speed dating company in America. I was the first dating coach for men back in 1992. So for 30 some years, this has been my body of work. And I have been so deeply entrenched into actual age groups and generations and cultures that I really feel like I have a handle on it that's a little different than even a lot of therapists have, because I worked with people doing 5-minute dates all over the United States. It was fascinating to see the generations. And so, I mean, it goes on and on. My career started back when I was a connector in Delaware, and then I moved to Los Angeles, California, and I said, I'm going to make a name for myself and bring people together. So that's what's really was my connect. I'm a connector. I love to put people together, like Vanessa, our friend, right? We're like two birds of a feather flocking together. I love to put people together for relationships, and I've done that for thousands of people. But it starts with you. If you are listening to this, looking at you, Nat, she reminds me of me. Like, I kept thinking, well, once I get here, so now that you've gotten your platform built and everything's kind of stable, her heart goes, oh, wow, a little bit of loneliness here. I think I got it all settled. Now I'm ready for love, right? But more often than not, the entrepreneur person is always going to be struggling with the next step and, the new platform and social media. And it really does take a lot of time. I was guilty, hands up, guilty of being a workaholic. My mother, my parents, my friends, were all saying, why are you put thousands of people together? When are you going to find love? So I realized that I had a part of me like you. I call it the once I syndrome. Well, once I get here, once my website's done, once my book is done, once my platform's built, then I'm going to open myself up. But why not try to think just a little differently and think, wow, if I'm doing all this amazing work, why can't I find a partner that can support me while I'm doing that with a little love, food, romance, all that on the side, right? And most of the women go, well, there's nobody that can handle anyone like me. Or the men are like, oh, the women are too busy. Men, ladies, the men of the world, I've been coaching them for years. They need us to send signs, okay? They need us to send the signs because of the Me Too movement that went all around the world. Men are more afraid now than ever to make a move because they don't want to be considered, a pervert or stalker or whatever. So that's why my most favorite thing to teach is flirting. And people, I don't know about people in your country, but a lot of people don't do anything now. Everybody's masked, right? We're all wearing masks. And so what do you think about all of that, about flirting, and how is it over there?
For a lot of people, I think in England, a lot of flirting it's kind of subtle, but I don't think it's kind of that obvious. I've heard a lot of people say when you're in New York or places like that, the women are really hard and they flirt and they say what they want. But in the UK, it doesn't seem to be that way. I think it's easier now kind of in terms of online dating. You can be a little bit more flirtatious behind a screen, but that for me doesn't feel, I'm like, ooh, I'm not really.
No, but this is live face-to-face flirting.
Exactly. So if you do live face-to-face flirting, I think a lot of people go, oh, I feel really embarrassed and vulnerable because it's not an area we've ever been taught in. It's not something we know how to handle. We think, oh my God, is that guy flirting with me? Or how do I feel? It's very intimate and really can crack you very quickly, which I kind of love. And I've been in situations where I do enjoy flirting. I flirt all the time. It's not something I'm shy of by any stretch. And I enjoy it when I get it back, but it's not always something I want to go and do something more with. It's just kind of a natural flirtation. And I think our point as well, when you said about the once I used to very much be like that myself and say, once I've done this and once I've done that. Now I'm like, I'm totally available, but there is a pandemic going on. I've been available. I literally announced to myself, no more of this waiting. And then the pandemic hit last year because I was working in London. I was like, right, I'm in London, got my, my scene going on. I've got everything I need. I'm ready. My heart was open. Then pandemic hit, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why now? And I just started seeing someone, and it didn't quite work out. But it's something I think we flirted quite a lot actually, and we met on a dating app. We flirted a lot, and it was really good banter, and it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel alive. But again, if you're flirting with, or someone's flirting with you that you don't want them to flirt with you, you're like, oh, this is awkward. So there's a real thing around that. I think that's for me personally, but I think a few other people feel like that in the UK.
Yeah, well, it is, but I think what it is, it's an energy frequency that you're sending out. So if you're, say, for example, at a store picking up food, I was joking around with people when the pandemic first started, everyone was rushing for chicken or meat, right? And so when I don't know if you watched the Handmaid's Tales, but when the women go shopping, they're all like these controlled women, and they have to go shopping for food. And when they find something, they hold up the food and they say, "Blessed be the fruit," right? So it's this scene in these shows. Every week they have to shop. So I got chicken, so I had my mask on, and I said, "Oh, blessed be the fruit," and the whole place cracked up. And I said, "We all need to lighten up here. We all need chicken, but we can at least say hello to each other." So everybody started to talk to each other, and I started like this commotion at Trader Joe's, and I have a way of doing that. I love to put people together, but I find that people are scared to just say something. And it isn't about a pickup line. It's more about whatever's happening in the scene, wherever you are, whether it's music in the background, or, you're going in for coffee and it smells good and you're waiting in line distanced from someone. You can say, "How are you doing during this crazy time?" And they look at you like, somebody's talking to me. Oh my God, Yeah. And I have gotten a reaction from asking that one question to hundreds of people over the last year. Actually, it's been a year now. We've been in this, right? And people go, "You're like the first person that's spoken to me today,"
Yeah.
So it's acts of kindness. It's a connection. It's an opening. But what happens is, if there's people around you when you're doing that, it makes you look like an open person rather than targeting like what men do when they go to an event. I see it because I did hundreds and hundreds of singles events. They walk in, they look for a target, right? And women do it too. We go to an event, you look, "Oh, that guy over there," or "Oh, that woman over there." But what's happening is everyone is around you. And if you snub off somebody that comes up and looks at you and says, "Oh, my name's Bill," and you go, "Oh," and you brush him off with a vibe, the other men are going, "Oh God, I'm not going to go talk to her," So
yeah, because they're watching around, aren't they?
Everybody's watching.
Yeah, I don't think I have that much of a problem if I was in it. Like I'm from Yorkshire, not originally, but I've spent a lot of my time up here. So for us in Yorkshire, everyone talks to everyone. It's, you walk down the street, everyone's where they've got dogs, even with masks. Most people don't wear their masks on the street here. But like if you walk past, it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Everyone has that discourse anyway. So it's really quite easy. But in London, it's not that friendly. And I don't want to like slag anyone off in London, but it is a little bit harsher when you're in the bigger cities. But over here in Yorkshire, everyone is talking to everyone, whether you're on a bus or on a corner shop or whatever. It's full conversation. So it's quite naturally open. But I guess if you're not used to doing that, it can also feel like, "Oh my God, what if they don't say hi and I look like the crazy person asking how people are?" That I think, but so now people want that connection of any kind.
I am that crazy person. Yay.
Yeah.
Be the person that lights up the room. Even if you're shy, you can. The other thing is, now that people are starting to gather, and this was one of my famous flirting techniques, is when you go to an event or in a party, be of service to whoever's having it. And you end up meeting everyone. So I used to have a lot of people want to work at my front desk or to greet the guests that came up into an event, so they got to meet everyone. But what we need to do now is go internal to look at how you may have been blocking. Because if you think about it, every person that's listening to this is in a situation. People always call me, they go, "I'm in a situation." So what's the situation? You're either dating somebody you're never going to go long term with, and it's been a year and you don't know what to do because now Valentine's Day is coming up.
Yeah,
Do
to
go
validate it,
out
and
on a
you're like,
romantic date with some guy or girl that you're really not into, or you have a temp. I call them temps, which are people that are in your space that you may be having a love affair with, but you're not in love with. They are somebody, I call them the space holder
yeah,
person, right? So
I've had
many
those
men and
before.
women have that person because they're busy. And then once a week, they have a little hanky panky with someone. And then they might meet someone new, but they sort of feel a connection to the person that they're sleeping with, but they're not in love with. So it
Mhm.
creates a barrier energetically for someone new to come in.
That happens a lot. That bit right there, and you say this, that bit happens a lot. Not just for me, but like in terms of so many friends I know do that. They're like, oh, I'm kind of seeing this guy and he's okay for now. And then they meet someone they really like and they feel so guilty about the guy that they're sleeping with.
Yeah.
And it's usually the women. I don't know many guys that have said that to me where they feel guilty about it. But I know a lot of women have been like, oh God, really like this new guy and I feel bad because I'm sleeping with the old guy, but it's just sex. So it's kind of being honest in that situation, which is the
Well, it's
real
hard
part.
to tell a new guy. Well, hey, there's this guy that I sleep with every Wednesday and Friday, but you're my weekend guy. Nobody's going to want to really share you energetically. So it is,
Yeah.
and I did it. I was a workaholic. I had a guy, and he said, "I don't want to get married." I said, "I don't want to right now. I'm building my first book," and I kept saying, "Once my book is done, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
And then 3 years went by. And other men would come into my sphere, when I was dating him, but I felt committed to him, even though I really wasn't.
Yeah.
And he and I both talked about it. And I said, I feel like I'm cheating on you if I meet somebody. And he goes, you can meet other people. It's okay. We don't have any, exclusivity. And then I started feeling like, well, what am I then? It was weird. And then I would bring him occasionally with me to a TV taping. I did a flirting thing at this big Beverly Hills restaurant. And my friend, people were looking at me going, is he really the guy that you're dating? Like, he really didn't match me where I was in my work. Like, I wanted to have a man in my life that represented me in
Yes.
the love world, and I've been with my husband now for 18 years. But I waited a long time before I settled down.
18, my lucky number. I'm sat here thinking, I hope it's not that long that I have to wait.
Well, no, but I was the reason. And I have a book. I wanted to show it to everyone because this is where it's called Get Real About Love, because most of us are not honest with our own hearts sometimes, and we keep pretending that it's okay that we have this lover or a temporary person. But I think out of all the things that busy, successful people do, men and women, it's equal. The women hide it more. The men are all like, oh, I got this babe on the side. The women, they kind of like to talk about it, oh, this lover and everything. But underneath it all, when I go into the depths of patterns that people have, they often have that temp because they've been hurt before.
Yes.
And, once you get hurt, and believe me, I just had a fascinating conversation with a man that hurt me so bad. And I promised him that I was going to write about him in my book, right? And I haven't been able to find that bugger it's been 24 years since I talked to him.
Wow.
But every person that I coach, I always ask them their history, right? And I say, I want you to write out all the men or women you've loved before and put out what happened, right? And when you see, usually I call it a love loop, where you keep doing the same thing again and again. And I did that. A love loop.
A love loop. Literally, I talk about this all the time. So it's about closing the loop and opening the loop with its love and apologies and forgiveness. So you have this loop. And if you're not doing this, you're just getting this kind of stale version. But it's about sending out the love loop. We're in sync. This is why Vanessa wanted us to talk.
I am big into the love loop. And when I looped through the same type of man, unavailable, busy, but it was really me who needed to change. It wasn't them.
Yeah.
So the love loops that people have, they're going, oh my God, look, I stayed with this person. So when you do an analysis of your own heart paralysis, and that's what this is, the secrets to opening your heart to find true love. And it was really hard for me to face this fact, but it all came from my love lineage. So that's going to be my whole next body of work, because I work with people from all cultures. And when you look at your culture, where you grew up, how you were wired about love, that's where it begins. And then the love loops start usually in high school and college. And then if you get married really young, sometimes you never address them until you're married, right? So it's such a fascinating, I mean, it's like a study. I've done like a study of the human dating world in all age groups. So remember, you have now the younger generation. There's the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. The 50s, 60s, and 70s people are really having a hard time because they're not technically oriented. Many of them. Some would be irritated to hear that, but some of them aren't really good with algorithms. They're not good with learning how to make things look better, spicier, you know. So I have been so honored to help so many people.
This
but
is
there's
so good.
There's unlimited things to talk about, right?
There's a whole list of here. This is like, I think dating is kind of one area that obviously now we're in a pandemic. Dating is slightly weird. Obviously, there's a digital version of what, you know, of what we can be doing. How do you feel at the moment in terms of kind of working with your clients and people's? What are the kind of the things that somebody could do that would enhance their dating life right now, if there is anything that they can do?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. It's just that, are you really doing it? Number one, making love part of like your schedule, right? Because most people work all day. You have to put in little timeouts to make love a priority. Like if it's really still not a priority for you in your mind and you're thinking, it's too much of a pain, you probably haven't put a lot of energy into it. And the reason
I put zero energy into it. Zero energy into it. So I could catch zero energy in. There's no love scheduled in my diary for external love. I do a lot of bath time every night and I read a lot and I've got love for me, but I haven't ever thought about scheduling in love for the, you know, for that to come in from the love to come back in. I haven't, I just haven't done that. So I'm probably not the only one.
That because of this, there's some, maybe it had happened before when you gave so much that you got hurt. So if that did, now maybe, I mean, I can ask you in general. I mean, you hear it all the time. So when you've had your heart broken, how long of a time did you ruminate over that broken heart? Because if it's a year or more, then you didn't do enough healing with yourself. So many people that I'll talk to somebody and they'll go, well, there was this guy, Steve. And I'm like, oh my God, tell me about it. And they tell me, and I go, well, how long ago was that? And they go, 20 years. And I'm like, wow, you're still stuck on Steve from 20 years ago, you know? But there is people that leave marks in the heart, right? So in my book, I take you through a process of really examining the phases of life people are in, right? So if you're now, God bless you just said it live on air, I am open, okay? But if you're so I always say, what percentage of you is open? Because there's openness that's like this, and then there's openness.
Percentage-wise, this is a really good question, Renee. I would say in terms of being up for meeting someone and being ready to go all in, I'd say a good 80%. But that is only very recent. Up until then, it was about 50% until Christmas. And literally 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago, a week ago? Almost just over a week ago, I had this whole magical day. I found this beautiful silver key. I had this dream. There was loads of synchronicities. And I felt like my heart just opened up and was like, ready. And I was just like, oh, I didn't even know that I wasn't that ready, you know? So there was a big shift of not being energetically available. And I was like, oh my God. So that was so recent. So, you know, it's only been a week, really. I can't say 12 years. I can say like a week since I've been a good 80% ready. I think the other 20%, if I'm honest, is just the fact that I'm like, 10% of that's a bit of a pandemic. So I'm thinking maybe a bit limited. And the other 10% is probably thinking, there's no, you know, there's like, but other than that, I'm like all in, ready to go. I'd love to meet someone right now. But
well, if you look, the book itself has a key and a heart, right? So people give me keys and I have a whole house full of hearts.
Oh,
so
I love
one
it.
of the things that everybody needs to do, whether you're in love or not, is to examine your heart, right? To examine your own self, because everybody goes, it's so hard to meet people. It's impossible. It's too much work. But it's really supposed to be about an openness within inside of your soul, really. So what I suggest, I mean, it's interesting because most of the people that I've been coaching this last year have been super high powered executives, like presidents of companies. They've never had time to sit home and read a book about their love life. But if you really, and I speak at conferences all over the country in the United States about the art of balancing love, life, family, and business. Because when you're not balanced in your work and love and play and all of that, it affects your business. So if you're in a heartbreak or you're going through a breakup, it affects your business. It affects your friendships because you're like sulky and you're not really ready. And so the whole point of my work is to open your heart again, to go, wow, let me learn the lessons. Let me ask questions to my future potential dates that could be my future partner to see if we're aligned, because everybody's in a situation. So in the book, it starts out with, where are you as a single person or a person? Maybe you're locked in a relationship and you've stayed too long, or maybe you have a passenger remaining in your vehicle. That's what I call. So that term, I made that up back in 1993 because I wrote this book. Now look at my 80s hair, still similar to what I wear now. This was from 1990. No, this was 2000. I wrote this book. But this was the book. It's called Love Mechanics, the Power Tools to Build Successful Relationships. So I use car terminologies. So when men, I said, what can I call somebody that you're heartbroken over? A passenger that you carry around with you. You're carrying them around and you can't let them go, right? So maybe you had one of those.
I did have a passenger, unwilling passenger as well. He didn't want anything to do with me, but I was still like, oh, okay, well, it wasn't that I actually needed it to be him. It was just, there was an idea in my head that I'd not had the closure. So even though I thought it's probably not going to work many years ago, there was a part of me that was just like, I want the closure. Didn't get the closure, had to give it to myself. But there was a comment here that somebody said 80% isn't all in. I play poker, so I know. So you're right. I hold my hands up. I am not 100% all in. I am 80% all in.
80% is really good, considering.
Yeah, and I genuinely do feel it's 80%. I'm not worried about that number. I'd like to increase it to 100. Can we do that by the end of the call? How do I get
It's all about, like in my book, I have a whole chapter on rituals to do to prepare yourself for love, right? So these are some of them right now. Make appointment with yourself. Remember, work's always going to be a part of your life. And if you can't imagine, like my husband is a major healthcare person. He travels a lot. He's gone a lot. It's like the perfect match for me, right? So when I visioned my husband, which I can't find my darn vision book, I do have it up online. And I perhaps can put some of these links into your feed later. There was a gentleman that wrote for the Huffington Post about vision boards. So if you put Huffington Post vision boards, Renée Piane, you'll see the vision of my husband.
Huffington Post. Huffington Post.
It's Huntington. What is it? I just said it.
Huffington Post vision boards.
Huffington Post. Vision boards, and then put Renée Piane, and you will see. It's all different people's vision boards, and I'm like in the middle of the article. And you'll see the before picture of my husband and the after, the before picture of my dog that I visioned and him, Buddy, who is actually in my house. And you'll be able to scroll down. So if you see it, we could put the link to it.
I've literally grabbed that. So I'm going to put that in the chat here in the link. So people can go and look at that now. It's a long link, but go for it, guys. Go and have a snoop.
It is a long link.
On YouTube while you're on there.
But what I did was I started to think, okay, if I'm here giving love to the world, I want to find a philanthropic man, because every event that I did, I gave back 10%, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted
hold on. I have just seen the vision board. What the hell? Guys, you have to go. Oh,
can you show it? Can you show it?
Yeah, hold on. Let me just see. There's a way. I can be technical with this, so let's just do this carefully. And I'm gonna
our computer to let you see this.
This is so bonkers. Okay, so there's a way to do this. Don't go anywhere, people. Stay with us. I am on it. Okay, Go while you're doing that, while I'm uploading this, you carry on your story and then I'll bring this up.
So I put a picture of it. I wanted to have a businessman that traveled so that I could have some free time to teach my classes, my rituals classes, my healing classes. And this man, you know, you'll have to, there he is. Okay. So this to the left was the picture of what I wanted. And it had all the words around it. So when I do vision board classes, I use the way I want to feel. I wanted unconditional love. I wanted giving. I wanted spiritual. I wanted family. Now there's a whole other page on the other side where you see my dog. Can you show my dog? Now,
hold on 1 second.
While she's doing that, I had a picture of the Caesar dog, which I think everyone in the world knows what that dog looks like.
Yeah,
and I'm going to send to my husband, and here's Buddy now. This is a recent picture of him. There it is. That my assistant made me a coaster because I'm so in love with my dog. But Buddy, well, I visioned him, and a gentleman came to my house to do my kitchen and saw this. The picture to the right is what I had, and then Buddy is there on the left side. Now this picture's pixelated.
Wow.
But I had that picture on my refrigerator for 3 years. And then this dog showed up. Now he looks almost exactly like that dog, even though he's got his face. Okay. So what happened was, it was my birthday party. And my father came in town, and I said to my husband, I want the dog. And he goes, how am I going to get that dog? And I go, I don't know, but a miracle can happen. So this relates to dating. So you start to visualize your future wife, the type, you know, the way they look, the way they, you know, what they're up to in the world, how they deal with family. And you start to think about that. And that's what's in my book. It's a whole vision process. Like, what is the day-to-day life that you want to have with this person? What are they like? What is it going to be like being with them on weekends? Like, what would you be doing together? You know? So I envisioned an athletic businessman that traveled, that was really good with Italians, because I have a very loud family. And look at him. He looks like an Italian. He looks like Anthony Zabato, the actor.
It's crazy.
But more importantly, he looks like the guy I visioned. Okay. So when I met him, I knew I had met him. My love story is so magical. I had met him when I was 22 years old, when I was doing his cousin's hair for her wedding, and he came through the receiving line. And I remember looking up at him, and he's really tall and I'm little, and he grabbed my little hand, and I got a jolt of lightning. And I said, oh my God, I said, I think I'm going to marry that man, to his cousin. And then 20 years later, I had moved away from Delaware to go to California to do what I do. And I had been on television a lot. So he saw me a lot on TV back there and followed my career, but he was married to someone else. And then he was in the midst of a divorce. And then 20 years later, my mother unfortunately passed away very suddenly. And I slowed down for 2 weeks, and I ended up getting a gift of love from slowing down. Wow. So that is part of my message. Hello. Like, your mother have to die to make you slow down for 2 weeks. You know, you need to look at your life and say, wow, I'm 35 or I'm 40 or whatever age you are. Now, where do I see myself in a year? If I was to have a partner, would I be a good partner? Like, so ask yourself, would you want to marry you the way you are right now?
Yeah. Like, and this is a really, really good question. I've said this to so many people. I knew when I met a guy that I fell in love with, and I was just like, oh my God. And we got pregnant. There was a whole thing, and it just went through the hell, because I was like, oh my God, we're not ready. We couldn't go through with it. There was a whole scenario. And I vowed to myself that if I ever met someone I felt that way about again, I would do everything I can to become the best version of myself, because they deserved it. And and even though he never showed up in the way that I wanted him to, and for various reasons, for his own reasons, not a horrible guy at all, just never showed up in the way that I wanted to commit with. And neither did I at the time. But I knew that if there was someone out there like that I could love, I was just like, oh my God, they deserve the best version of me. So I took to it, and I'm like, right, what do I need to do? And I improved on myself so much. I changed my whole life. I mean, that guy coming into my life completely changed everything for me, even by not showing up. Just the definition of him and the feelings I had for him helped me grow into who I actually am today, which I'm super happy with. So even for not showing up, I love him so much more in the fact that it really was an inspiration. Whether it was ever meant to go any beyond that, probably not. I don't know. But what I got out of it is so good, and I have become who I am today. So for that, I feel truly grateful. But at the time, oh my God, it was so painful. It was like, oh God, why can't you just show up? Why? But he didn't need to show up. It was me that needed to show up to myself. And since then, things got better and better and better. And I, learned to meditate more, working out more, looking at my career. What do I want? Where do I want to go? Making those decisions. And it's literally only within the last year or so since this pandemic happened where I'm like, I'm so glad I made the decisions I made before, because otherwise I'd be screwed in a pandemic, right? I've had this as a pretty easy ride without sounding like I'm gloating. I'm in a good position right now that I'm very glad that I got here. But there was some sacrifices because all of my friends were having babies and getting married and getting dogs and all of that stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm going to wait it out a bit longer and a bit longer. And now I feel like, and I know this sounds so bad, but there's so many divorces happening right now. The market is being flooded with new men and new women. There's never been more of an option than there is now.
This will give me my next topic. Everybody goes, I am 42. Women will call, they're like, I'm 42 and I want to meet a man that never had kids. He never They have this list like this long.
No.
And I go, well, most of the people are going to be recycled. They're going to be back in the dating game. But I would advise anybody, if you've just gone through a breakup or a wake-up call, to read the book to get you really clear on where you are so that you're honest. Everybody has to be. That's why it's Get Real. Like, let's get real with each other. We're grown-ups. Now you want love, right? So when you go out and somebody says, so, you're so beautiful. People, they would get together with men and go, why haven't you been married? Like, what's wrong? Or, like, what happened? So how do you answer the important questions that a guy that's really ready? Because when men are interested in a woman, and they'll tell you this, I do these man panels. I'm going to be having another one day.
Oh my God, I have to
get people to leave. The women are like, I never knew that, right? And it's just, the men that I get on these panels are single guys, players, all different types of guys, and they tell you like it is. They're like, hey, if a woman's hanging out and letting me sleep with her without asking for anything, I'm all in, because I'm a player. But you need to learn how to really identify yourself and then stick to your own vision and your own conviction. So when people buy my book, it's so funny you talked about vows. It comes with vows.
Oh my God, I love this. Read them out.
Okay, so when you buy my book, it says now what I ask people to also do, and if people meet me live, I have hearts and I give people a heart. And I said, I'm going to give you a heart and I'm going to give you vows. Okay, so it says take your Get Real About Love by holding your heart stone in your left hand and placing your right hand over your heart while you proclaim.
I need a heart. Can I do this?
You need a heart.
I have a heart. I should have a heart close to hand. Why do I not have one? Do you know what? It's obviously not the right time. Oh, look. Yeah. Can I hold this, my love?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Go for it. I'm going to repeat after you.
This is how it starts. It says, in your left hand and placing your right hand over your heart while proclaiming, I vow and commit to myself that I, and you say your name, Nat, will take time to get real and be 100% honest with myself about what has blocked me from opening my heart and finding true love in my life. I vow that I will make this Get Real process a priority in my life. I vow to do the inner reflection it takes to go deep and discover more about my love lineage and my true love vision. I vow to create new daily rituals and habits to support my action plan to get real and get ready for love. I vow to get real and speak my truth from this day forward, knowing that my words are a powerful force. I vow to check in with my heart every day and follow my instincts. I vow to live in the moment during this life-changing adventure. And I vow to be loving and kind to myself as I navigate through this heart-opening process. And so it is. And then you have to pledge and sign it. If you do get my book online, you have to email me, because Amazon doesn't send me your name, which is so horrible because I've sold thousands of books and I don't know who's read it. But I can tell you by having these I use with my husband too. These are good for married people too.
Yeah.
When you understand the way a person was brought up, the way their lineage wired them, then you can understand how they are going to pass on those beliefs to their children, your children together, right? So before you even think about all the rest of the stuff, it's like, what wires them? Like, what wires you, Nat, to be who you are? Like, what drove you to want to do what you do?
Yeah, there was a whole kind of, I think for me, it was looking back and being like, oh my God, I've got it so wrong. I really had ownership at the beginning. When I met that guy, I was like, you can feel like this. I was like, I've never felt like this before. So even though it wasn't him, that feeling was enough of an inspiration for me to go, shit, I need to do this better. And it was the music and learning about sound was the inspiration for me. It was this like weaving its way through. And now I've got I Am Sound and I've built, everything that I'm doing. But I know for more than anything that he was a representation of me, and he was an amazing musician at what he was doing, and he's fascinating and stuff. And he was interested in all the things I was interested in. I just didn't know at the time. So I was actually falling in love with myself, not just him, not in an arrogant way, but I was falling in love with a version of me that I didn't know existed. And then he reflected that back. And I was just like, oh, it's amazing to learn later on, but at the time it's so painful.
Well, have you ever talked to him again? Have you ever?
Yeah, I did try. I've tried to reach out a few times, and he doesn't really want to know. He doesn't like. I know he doesn't hate me. I know it's not like or anything. It's just he just doesn't want to know. I don't know what he's doing right now. I don't know where he is. I have signs all the time telling me that I'll see him again at some point. In what capacity, I do not know. So I know that when I do see him, it'll be like, hey, I love you. Thank you so much. That it doesn't, I don't know what else it's meant to be, but the cycle is definitely there. And I know that there's a connection to see him in some capacity, but is he the man of my life? I don't know. I don't know. And I had to let go of that.
I'm telling you, I contacted the guy that broke my heart just this week, and I did a video about it. He said he did not have his name anywhere on the internet all these years because he was so afraid of people. And I'm like, maybe he did the same thing to other women. But I told him he was with me for 3 years and another woman for 3 years at the same time. And then he cheated. I found out he was cheating on me, and it was devastating. And then he married her like 6 months later. And there's all the stories in the book.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was so heart-wrenching, and so many people. The reason that I think that it's so raw for me is because I expose my weaknesses to the world that I did. And it was because of cheating in my family lineage. Okay. So however you were wired by your mom and your mom's mom, and they were all wired that way. They didn't mean it. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have Nat's show. They didn't have me back then, and so many people are so angry and so frustrated by the way they were raised.
Yeah.
If you really go back. So I did a study. This is so fascinating, of my family lineage. And it went back 5 generations of all the women becoming Wonder Women because they got left by their husbands, all the way from my great-great-great-grandmother, grandmother, aunts, cousins. I mean, and there were so many mixed kids, and it's like a movie. It's like crazy, but it wired me not to want to trust love. So I could learn how to blast open my heart. Even though I was an older bride at 45, my heart was so open that it magically happened just as soon as I opened it. Yeah. But it was the work that I did on me and thousands of my clients is what I'm sharing. You have to vow to your heart. You have to be honest. You can't keep pretending having sex with some guy that you can never take home to your family for a holiday, or you're embarrassed to bring out for a drink with your girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. And a lot of men call me and they're like, I have this girl, I have this girl. They're all like presidents of companies. I have this girl and she takes total advantage of me. And I'm so embarrassed when I bring her out. She's kind of not in my league. And I'm like, well, let go of her, Bill. And then maybe, let's bring out what you really want. And this happened. This happens a lot too. So I'm bringing these topics are popping into my mind. You stay too long with somebody that you care about, but you're not going the distance. And men are more guilty, I think, than women. Sometimes women do it too. They'll use a man until they get to a certain level with a guy, and then they take off. And the men are heartbroken. Men are so sensitive when they get heartbroken. So when you meet a guy, you know, you need to realize men don't have all the books we have. They don't have all the coaching we have. And when they get hurt, if they've loved deeply, that you have to really learn how to ask questions to find out. You don't want to be the repair girl on this guy.
Don't want to be their coach either.
And you don't want to be the man does not want a woman who just got abused by 4 guys and she tells them on her dates. So that's one of the things is, what do you say on dates about yourself in the beginning? Because if you're a beautiful person or you're a really charismatic person, the first thing they're going to say, and this is the hardest question to answer, is, what the hell happened? He was like, what the hell? I'm Italian. I go home. What's the matter with you? You're not married. You're old. Your eggs are old. You're getting old. What the hell's going on? I'd be like, you know what? I don't need this shit from my family. I need support. You know, I'm all over the world helping people fall in love. I have somebody special that's chosen for me. Everybody has somebody special that, or maybe a few people, if you're
lucky.
You know, there's people that are doing all sorts of relationship options, you know, swapping. You know, I've gone through it all. But who are you? What do you want? Do you want children? Do you not? You know, and women need to get real. Just because Nicole Kidman had inverted fertilization doesn't mean that a man is going to want to marry you when you're 45 and have to go spend thousands of dollars to have his seed and your seed match and then inserted and all of that. I mean, you got to get friggin' real about it. And because if you want a kid, you can adopt one, you know. Or
I thought of that recently. It was one of the conversations we'd had on the show and before. And I think one of the guests on the show knows me quite well and was really surprised because I said, you know, I've been pregnant before and it obviously wasn't the right time. But, you know, if I wanted to have kids now, I've actually thought about adopting with or without a man. I'd love to have a man by my side and do that journey. But I would love to also be a mum at the same time. And I'd love to be able to adopt a young girl or a boy or maybe, you know, brother and sister and do what I can to impart whatever it is that I can. And they were like, what, you do it on your own? And I was just like, yeah, because it matters to me. But then I didn't realize how much that mattered to me until they were like, what, you do that? And I thought, oh, actually, that's probably what I'm looking for. Not necessarily an adoption, but it's like I met a guy who had kids and he had 3 kids. And I just said, okay, cool. And he's like, are you sure? Like 3 kids? I'm like, that's cool. That's fine, like no problem. And it just doesn't faze me, it doesn't bother me with it. And I really didn't know that about myself. Not that I've got a problem with kids, but it was nice to see that I'm open, because a lot of women, they're like, oh my God, he's so much hard work, he's got kids or he's got exes. And I'm like, I'd rather have one that's been through everything already and is now defined in what he does and he doesn't want, because usually the first time around is when you make mistakes. So if I can get one that's a little bit more of a seasoned pro, might be able to show me how to do all sorts of parenting tricks that I've never done in my life. So yeah, I think it's an advantage if someone's got a bit of that history with them.
Well, my husband did. He was married twice before. And the second wife was someone that I knew because I used to do her hair. So she was not very happy when she found out that he met me. But he was going through a divorce the second time.
Yeah.
And I ran into him on a blue full moon. You'll have to read the story. It's on my website if anybody's interested. It's a really magical story because I was 3,000 miles away. We lived 3,000 miles away. So people say, well, I can't meet anybody long distance. Well, let me just tell you, anything is possible when there is that vision and you're honest about yourself and you know yourself if you can deal with it or not.
Yeah.
We met and he was traveling around the world for Oracle and I was all over the country doing rapid dating. And then the two shall meet, you know, 2 workaholics meeting. And if we could make it work, anybody can. Plus he was in the middle of a divorce. So divorced people, okay, people go, well, I don't want to go out with anybody divorced. Well, guess what? 65% of the world, 50 to 65% of the world statistically are divorced.
Wow.
And they're, like you said, they've learned great lessons. And if they haven't done some introspection, I would highly recommend, if you are coming out of a marriage, to read this, because the dating rules, the women have been really barraged with books on finding love and your soulmate and all this. But this is the inner work and the questions to ask on dates so that you can know yourself so well now where you are. So I said to him, this was the first question I said, and think about this, ladies, okay? I was 42. He was 43. We had met only one other time. He was in the middle of a divorce and lived 3,000 miles away. So why should you open up if you don't know right away? If you're really serious about being committed to somebody, I said to him, do you want to have other children? Because he was 43 and he still had a lot of time. He could have married a 35-year-old girl or hung out with me for a year and then said, I really think I want to have a baby. And I would have been too old by that time. He got divorced. I would have spent 4 years with him. Right. So I was very smart. You need to be smart about the questions you ask. And sometimes people are 100% honest, especially people that have been married. They learned, oh my God, I didn't know myself. They went through a phase where they realized they were forced to get married. Do you know how many brides that I walked up aisles and I'd be doing their hair, designing their clothing for their wedding and the flowers and all that. I love doing all of that. And I would say, so tell me about Steve. And they'd go, well, we've been together for 6 years. So I figured we might as well get married. And I said, wow, that wasn't telling me about Steve. So, I mean, haven't you heard that? Like women that'll say, well, he's good. He's pretty good. I think I'm just going to do it because I'm 40 or
it's when the guy says, oh yeah, she asked me to ask her to get married. She said she needed me to get married. I needed to propose. That for me just pisses all over any romance. I don't, if you have to ask a guy to ask him to propose to you, I don't think that's the right guy for you.
Well, there's a distinction of asking and then letting them know, like,
yes,
I do have so it's really the feminine lead, and men don't like to be forced into doing something, and when a woman says, well, there's a difference between like, we've been going out for 2 years. When is this going to happen? Instead of, we've been together for 2 years, baby, and I love you so much, but I've committed myself that I want to be with somebody that's ready. So I think we should just maybe take a little break.
Yeah.
And do like let him think about it. Like have a time out like you do with a kid, like, time out. Like maybe you're not really ready and that's okay. I don't want to force anybody. I love you and you're wonderful. And, there's many women that have come into me. They've been with somebody, living with somebody for 3 years. And they're like, he won't marry me. And I said, well, then do you really want to test drive this relationship? Just tell them this. And I give them like a script.
Yeah.
So I give people scripts that aren't bitchy. It's not about being bitchy. I know there's a book, Men Love Bitches, that you can be a nice.
I read that years ago. It's awful. It's like it works for really unconscious people.
I know.
That's
you have
the best way to describe it.
You have to be honest.
Yeah.
There was a couple that I love that I helped to get married, and she was living with this friend, one of my husband's best friends. And she called me and she said, I've been with him 3.5 years. And he's just not, moving forward with marriage. And he promised that, 2 years in, we would start the process of getting engaged and everything. And I said, well, don't say anything because you've already talked to him about it. And I said, so make a plan. And one night have great sex with him and, tell him have a romantic evening and then say, I just want to let you know that I've made some plans. I'm going to be living with Barbara. I'm going to be moving out next week. And he's like, what? And she goes, yeah, it's been, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years. I've been here living with you and I just don't feel right about it. So I'm taking a stand and I'm going to go stay with her for a while. And I think that you should take some time out and think about what you want to do. And I'm going to start dating because I want to move forward with my life. Well, he called me the next day. He's, did you get her to say this to me? And I said, yeah, I did. And he's like, oh my God, I can't believe it. She's gone. And I said, well, she's been asked, this has been going on for 3.5 years. I'm not going to say his name. And anyway, he called me up and I said, so why don't you take some time to think about, like, do you want to live your life without her? Do you want to see yourself going back out in the dating game? Because you're really good at that. Are you still tempted? Look at you,
Mm.
So anyway, my book came out and I was there in my hometown and they came to my book signing and they got engaged there.
Oh, that's so cute.
And they got married and they're very happily married. And he just needed a wake-up call, So don't drag people through hell when you're never going to marry them. It's just not right.
Yeah. And it's a lot of the women, we do, I think it's learning how to communicate is huge for women. And it, it's not a weakness to be able to ask of things nicely. But if we like huff and we puff, and I've been guilty of this myself, I am by no stretch like not a dragon. I've been a dragon in the past. And learning to communicate with ourselves about what we truly want and then setting those boundaries allows us to lay them down with love and say, see you later, if that's what needs to happen. And you're walking away with love. You're not walking away with anger. And that is an inspiration for a guy to be like, oh my God, this woman did it so beautifully. She's just said this in this way. And that's exactly how I want to be treated. She wasn't nasty. They can't blame you for anything, but it's learning about that communication, which is huge.
It's an art.
In terms of
art. It's an art to communicate in your power without being a bitch. I don't mean to use that word, but a lot of women are very demanding. They're watching The Bachelorette with that little queen. I don't know if you've been watching.
I've never seen this.
One night, and I was like, she is like the biggest bitch.
No, I've never seen it, but I've heard a lot about it.
It was just by accident she was there, and I heard it on the news. There was all this stuff about her on the news, and it was a woman that was really bossy and everything. And just the way she communicated, I was like, this guy's never going to pick her, but he didn't. But anyway, it was about the way she treated other people, plus the way she changed when she was with him. But when it comes to you, anyone that's listening, it's all about the way if you're insecure about somebody or getting that feeling of insecurity, then just pull back, instead of going, what's going on? I want to understand what you're thinking. Because guys process falling in love slower. I really believe that. I know it to be true, even for my own husband. And when he met me, he was dating 3.5 women. Now
3.5.
And I said, wow. I said, how many women are you? I mean, the night we met, we were grabbed onto each other. We had in Delaware. It's a magical story. I just was there. My mom had passed and I was home, and I went to the beach, and it was a place I hadn't been to in 18 years. And I had a feeling, and it was busy. And I begged my cousin to go there, and she didn't want to go. And I said, I'm going to meet somebody there. I have to go there now. And she's like, how do you know? You're psychic. Your predictions. And then I walk in the door, and there he is. And she's like, oh my God. And then we met, and she goes, you're going to marry him. And I go, I know, he's my husband. So anyway, it was a magical story. But the point is that when that night I said, he goes, did you ever marry that guy that I saw you with at the wedding? And I said, no. And he goes, well, I got married and his son was there. So he had a son.
Wow.
And then my cousin said, is this your son? And he was too young to be there. It was a 21-year-old age limit. Yeah. So we had to part ways, but he goes, I'd like to see you again. And he goes, and I said, so are you dating now that you're in the middle of a divorce? And I said, how many women are you dating? And he goes, why are you asking me? I said, because I don't want to be like squeezed in between, like sandwiched in between all these babes. I said, I'm sure every woman in Delaware is probably waiting in line to go out with you, And he goes, well, and he looks down kind of like, he goes, 3.5 women. And I'm like, how do you date a half of a woman? I said, were you dating her upper body or her lower body? And he got
sleeping with her. Yeah, just sleeping with her.
He wasn't. But and I said, well, what I think you should do. And I had my book because I was just on TV. My first book, I said, you should read this book, Love Mechanics. And he goes, well, I'm coming to California. I'm going to read it. And then I want to take you out to dinner and tell you what I thought about it. I said, that sounds good. And that's how it started. So all people want a person with a plan. Like, you need to, women love a man with a plan, like
we do.
You know what? my company's off, I got my company rolling. Like you just said, I got a nice place to go, a nice home, and I'm ready for my queen, or, I want to meet the woman of my life. I love when men call me that and say that.
Queen. No, so good.
I just love being a queen. My husband, you know what he's been doing? I got to tell this crazy story. Okay. I like sippy cups, right? So in the morning we were watching the Queen, and they would always go, good evening, Your Majesty. And they would bow, right? So he comes in the morning with my coffee. And I go, well, you treat me like a queen. So he decided that every morning he's going to bring me my coffee. And he goes, good morning, Your Majesty. And it's so cute. It's just,
oh, that's adorable.
He's very adorable. And today he knew I was doing the show, and he bought me these roses for the show. Gotta see these.
He's so cute. So
the point of it all is that it's all about, I'm trying to get the roses in there. There they are. The point is, it's about being appreciative. Like if somebody you meet says something, I made such a big deal out of everything that he did. He goes, I've never been appreciated like this before. I think a lot of women, it's a lot of work for a guy to make a plan and then pick you up and then go on a date. And even if it doesn't work out, even if he's not the guy, women just literally like, really nice to meet you, not interested in seeing you again. It's like about a sensitivity that people have when they're dating. Because the way you're treating people that you're not interested in, is a part of you. And sometimes it can be mean. And it's like being kind to people in the dating game is a really important thing to me. So you imagine, I don't know, have you ever heard of rapid dating, the speed dating thing? I know
there's been a lot of it in the UK.
Well, I was the first person to bring it to the United States in 2000 with my partner. No internet. The internet had just started, and we put together hundreds of people. But what I saw was women at the table with a list, and they would sit down and they'd go, where do you live? What kind of car do you drive? Where do you work? It was all about like analysis of where they were, instead of saying, wow, what do you like to do for fun on the weekends? Why did you come here? Do you, have you been married before? Why did you come here? And the people that were fun and lighthearted, that's why online and all that gets really like, everybody feels frustrated because it's sexual, a lot more sexual than a lot of people like. So be playful and know, by knowing yourself, you ask questions that are related to your love interests.
I think it's, somebody said to me years ago, I don't speak to him anymore, but he was very wise in one moment when he spoke to me, and he said, Nat, put your list down and ask for someone compatible. And I was just like, nobody has to be tall. And he's like, Nat, if he's compatible, he'll be tall. Put your list down. It's blocking you. And I'm like, no. And I went off and I had my list and I met this guy. And he ended up being really abusive. And I went back, unfortunately, with a black eye to the guy that I was talking to. And I was like, hey, and I used to see him every Saturday. And I'm like, hey. So he went, ready to give up the list? I was like, yeah, okay. And he said, ask for someone compatible. And that was when I met the guy that I told you about earlier, with the guy that I fell in love with. And at the time, he was perfect for what I needed to grow. And he was compatible at that time, and obviously it was what it was meant to be. But I was never going to give up my list. And this was like 7 or 8 years ago. So my list was like, oh my God, it must be this. Now I don't make lists. And I said this the other day on a show when we did a show on manifesting, and I said, I have given up manifesting. And since I've given up manifesting, honestly, God has brought me everything I've needed at the time when I've needed it. And it feels so much better and in alignment because I'm no longer in resistance. So now that I could really do the self-work and process my feelings. And for me, that just feels so much better. Whereas before, I've had vision boards, and they do work for people, and I've got things in on them. But for me now, I'm like, I don't know. I don't need to know where I'm going. And I like not knowing. And I just feel like I'm in a much better place. And that was really hard because I was super controlling. My list would change and I'd have like 7 or 8, and little things would change when I'd hear someone else's list that was better than mine. And I was just like, nah, just give it up. So I have.
Well, yeah. I in a way, I agree. I agree with that, but I like to associate the senses with the vision.
Yes. The feeling can be nice. I can think about it.
It's more about the feeling. And I'm actually going to be giving away a meditation for imagine, the imagining of all the senses of him or her, right, in your life. But I like to, in my book, did you get a chance to peruse?
No, I haven't. Do you know how many books I've got? I always get on authors. I'm like, I've got to stop getting on authors because everyone's like, Nat, do you want a copy of my book? While you're finding that, I just want to.
I have a whole bunch of exercises. I'm going
to now have to order it. I'm going to go do it on Amazon.
Or I'll have to I could send you the ebook. They're manifesting exercises, and this is what I'm going to be doing in this free, call that I'm going to be doing. It's like, imagine how you're going to co-create things, how the energy will be. It's more about the energy of it. And I used to just say, I want somebody philanthropic. I want somebody that gives back. I want somebody that's family oriented and handsome. I want a handsome guy. And athletic. So that is part of a list, but it's sort of, and I do like tall, dark, handsome men, just like most people do.
I can't believe, and just one more time before we do it.
I wanted a businessman, so I put a businessman. Never expected.
That is uncanny.
And he always wears suits, and he does almost have the exact same hair and nose.
It's the smile as well. It's so.
I know. I'm a big person about teeth. I actually got hired by Metadent toothpaste, and this was like 10 years ago, to fly to New York to talk about teeth with the person that created Metadent toothpaste. About
Wow.
how a smile can open a door, how everybody smiles. Very important. It's very important to take good care of your teeth. So that's part of like getting ready for love. I have classes, Get Ready for Love for women.
It's interesting that you say getting ready for love in that sense, because there's this company called Smile Direct Club in the UK, and they're like you can order your aligners if you need to get your teeth straightened.
Right.
And I thought, I'm going to give it a try. So I thought I paid like 20 quid. I think it might be free. No, I paid like 20 quid to get the measurements done. And then they were hounding me saying, hey, like you've got to get your aligners. It's going to be this much a month. And I'm thinking, do I really need it in a pandemic? What's the point? And then I just put it off and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I've got other things I can spend my money on. And then they sent me an email the week before Christmas and said, hey, now we hope you're having an amazing lead up to Christmas. We just want to let you know that you are in alignment and you've won our free teeth aligning kit. And it's 1,500 quid. And I got the teeth aligners. So I wear them not when I'm on the show, but it said the email was like, you are in alignment. And I'm just like, oh my God. And it was so funny because that day some other things happened to me as well. So I've been straightening my
that statement, we are aligned. We are aligned. That's why when you look at that picture, it has words all around it. It's not just a picture, it's a commitment, it's family. Because I'm Italian and I bring men to my house and the men would be like, I can't handle all these hugs and all this love. It's like too much food and too much, and I'd be like, well, that's who I am. You don't like it, then don't sign up for this, a very loud family. So that's why it's a feeling. It's a feeling of the alignment with your lifestyle. So however you describe that is somebody that's fitness oriented, that loves to eat healthy, because it's all about your lifestyle match. I call it a lifestyle match. And it doesn't have to be matching. It's just, it fits, it aligns.
The jigsaw piece have to go.
We've
got a comment. We've got a couple of comments actually here. I want to read to them before we go. We're almost on the hour. So somebody said, Dina, who watches at nearly every show I do, which I love you, Dina. Thank you so much. Dina said, sorry, is it Dina or Deanna? I think it's Dina when I pronounce it. What would you say or do about a previous real love that passed on before we really made it? I've made mistakes in relationships, still wanting a version of him. I think I've got over him more now. So how would you get over someone who has passed away? That's a
wow. It's interesting because death is, I get messages from people. So I'm just putting it out there. I do. I believe that the spirit of a beloved, and I have another client who lost a man with a disease, he died of a heart attack and she lost him. And I say, and there's a story in my book, my uncle was dying and my aunt, he said, I want you to help Aunt Carmela find someone. And so he said that he was, and I said, well, you need to visit her and send her signs. And he goes, well, I will. But anyway, the long story short is that I believe that if you had somebody that loved you, the love never goes anywhere. The energy's still there. And you can call upon them and let them know that you would like their assistance because they know you so well and that they would want, I'm sure that he or she, if somebody's listening to this from the opposite, whoever you are, that whether it's a parent that, was bugging you to get married or a beloved like that you had, that spirit lives on inside of you. And you can ask, will you please support me in finding somebody to treat me this in an amazing way because of your love. I trust you to.
That makes me want to cry.
Put a little nudge in there. So this is what happened. So this is amazing story. So my aunt, my uncle was my favorite. She had been divorced with 4 kids. Her husband cheated on her. She was one of my biggest imprints. She's like a mother. And she ended up meeting my uncle at one of my father's restaurants because she had to work 4 jobs to take care of her 4 kids that her husband left her alone. And she used to say, make your own money. So when she said, I'll never get married again. So me and my cousin were like encouraging her to meet somebody. Anyway, I was only 11 years old, but she met my Uncle Jimmy and they took us on all their dates. She married him 4 years later. But he died of cancer and she was brokenhearted. So I was doing a television show and he said, I need you to help your aunt find a man. And I said, well, I'll help if you'll help. I'm going to pray to you and I'm going to ask you to help me because I'm going to convince her to start going out again. Right. So lo and behold, we made this agreement when he was dying. So this is why I'm saying, if your beloved, so you could call upon him. So anyway, she went out 4 months after his death, and she hadn't been touched in 4 years because he had cancer of the jaw. Half of his face was cut off. So she was a very physical woman. She went to an Italian-American club dinner with my parents, met a guy from high school who asked her to dance. Okay, so he asked her to dance. She held his hand and she felt this tingling, she said, in her hand. And he held her and they were dancing to a song that was sent from Jimmy, my uncle. That was one of their songs. That was the first sign.
Wow.
Then the second sign is she calls me the next day and she goes, you're not going to believe this. Last night, remember you told me that Uncle Jimmy was going to try to help me find a man. She said, I feel guilty because I felt the stirring. She called it the stirring because she was 63 years old. And I said, Aunt Carmela, Uncle Jimmy wished it for you. He asked me to help. I'm going to tell you to do this. Now, this is for your friend. Ask him for a sign if he's open, and you'll know what the sign is. And I said, you need to pray to Uncle Jimmy to ask for a sign so you can give yourself a permission. So he's, your beloved will probably send you some sign of a permission, right? Slip permission. So my aunt, I give her this information and she goes, what are you talking about, a sign? I said, I don't know what it'll be. Only you will know that it's from him. I don't know what it'll be, but he's going to send you a sign.
You'll know.
2 days later, she's getting ready for work. Now there was birds, lovebirds, white lovebirds kissing with a heart in the middle that someone had given them. And every morning my uncle would wind it, make her coffee and wind the birds. And the birds would sing, I think it was a forever love song. I forget what the song was. And she was upstairs getting dressed and no one was home. So she came into the kitchen and the birds are going, doo, 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 and she calls me. She goes, oh my God, but the birds are chirping, and then she hangs up and I said, and she goes, call me. So I get the message. She goes back upstairs, putting her makeup. The birds did it again. And there was no one in the house. So then I called her back and she's in the kitchen and she goes, I think this is the sign. This is the sign.
No shit.
And I'm like, oh my God. She goes, well, what does it mean? And I said, birds are a sign of freedom. He wants you to be free. She married my Uncle Frank a year later. And she's 89 now. 89. They've had 25 years together.
Wow.
And she always calls me and we talk all about the sign. She goes, I'll never forget that. Tell all of your people out there to ask for a sign. So when you lose a mother or you lose, anybody can send you signs and you can ask them. So my father just died recently. God rest his soul. And I said to him, he goes, you want me to send you? And he's getting ready to die, right? He goes, you want me to send you a sign, don't you? And I said, yes, I do. Anyway, he sent me a sign. I was doing a TEDx talk and I would invite all of you to watch it. And if you can find the link for it, I'll do
that right now.
It's TEDx Youth Ursuline. It's called The Power of Your Love Lineage. And it's all about wiring the way teenagers are wired, the way if you're a mom or dad, you're wiring your teenagers with your sadness of your breakup right now. So you got to be really careful because that's what happened to me. All my aunts crying, I'm going to be alone forever with all these kids. So that's all I ever heard. I never wanted kids. I never wanted to get married ever. And look at what happened. But anyway, I'm getting ready. This is just last year. I was getting ready to talk about my lineage of my family in front of my whole world, in front of the whole world about cheating and infidelity, right? And how it went through the generations, which was very upsetting. And I prayed to my dad. I go, I wish you were here because I was on the stage that I grew up going on in my high school. I was at my high school in my hometown doing it. And I'm walking up and I prayed for my sign and my father sent the song, I'll be watching you.
Oh.
take every step you make. I'll be watching. And I'm getting ready to go on the stage. And I had looked out and there was my family with this empty seat. And I believe that he was in that seat. And I have goosebumps.
Yeah, I know. I cry on every show. I'm so ridiculous. I literally feel when people are talking, I'm like, and I'm a huge believer in signs. They come in thick and fast to me so much, and it's just unmistakable. And there's two stories there that are so clear, and people could say, oh yeah, it's a coincidence. There's no such thing as a coincidence. And we know.
Look for hearts. Like when you're looking for love, I swear I see squished gum shaped like hearts. There's the cloud. Like I'm walking, my husband would go. Now he even looks. He goes, look, there's a heart. And I'm like, yeah. And that's why it's like you are the magnetic force to bring in love by being love, by being loving to yourself, by saying to him, please. Whatever his name is, I'm looking for a sign from you. Like I'm looking for love. Go to the beach. I love going to the beach. My best friend, if you do read my book, there's a story of my best friend who was a CNN news reporter. She was a workaholic. And she kept saying, once I get my health show with Sanjay Gupta, I'm going to slow down to find love. And she ended up getting stage 4 cancer. And she came to live with me. Now, I ask her for signs a lot. And when she died, I go to the beach. So I went to the beach with my other friend and my husband. I said, I got to go talk to Rhonda. So I go, hey, Rhonda, send me some signs. She pulled up 7 heart rocks on the beach, rolled up all these rocks.
Oh,
and I had them all over the house. 7 hearts. And this friend of mine came down and I said, send me a heart. She sent me 7, which is my lucky number. Now, how weird is that? And this is mad. And when I found my house, I asked for a sign and my mother sends butterflies and there was all white butterflies. In front of my house was a heart-shaped plant with white butterflies on it. I'm like, I walked in and I said, we're buying this house. I just bought the house that day. So signs are everywhere.
Yeah, they are. If you're willing to listen to them. And that's, some of the signs that I've had are so obvious. All you can do is laugh. And I had one just before Christmas. Literally, I had one just before Christmas, and I'd done an interview with one of the guests, and before I'd done an interview with him, I'd actually been for a reading because he was with one of my friends. He'd done an interview with him too, and I thought I'm just going to go see this guy. Me and my mum went up there to go and have a sound healing, and I thought I'm going to have a reading with this guy as well. And I'd stopped having readings for a long time, but there was something in this one, and I was like, I'm just going to do it. And he said to me, you need to be somewhere on the 23rd of, it's 23rd. It's going to be the solstice. You need to, 21st. So you need to be somewhere that night at 12 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, doesn't everyone? I'm like, it's so blasé. It's the most spiritual night of the year. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, no, you need to follow the stars. And I'm like, follow the stars. We're the night where Bethlehem star is going to be in the sky. I'm thinking this guy's cool, but this is a bit obvious. So anyway, I left it. And I'm driving down, didn't know what I was going to do on that night. And then I had nothing planned. I was meant to go somewhere else. That got cancelled halfway to the journey. And I'm like, where do I go? So I'm traveling down to Devon because we were going down to Devon for Christmas. So I'm traveling down to Devon and I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. And I messaged my friend and I started seeing these stars in really random places down the side of the motorway and then through this town. And I'm like, I'm seeing stars. And I'm like, it's the most spiritual night of the year. And I was like, what? And then I was seeing stars in the most unusual places. So I rang some of my friends and I'm like, this is crazy. And they're like, Nat, you're on one of those journeys again. Just go for it. So anyway, long story short, there were so many synchronicities. I get to my friend's house. Have you heard of the I Ching or the I Ching? The book? Yeah. So my friend's really into it. And in his bathroom, I'd got this song that had come on in the radio that said, you need to go and meet me by the willow tree. Meet me by the willow tree at midnight. And I'm like, oh, the guy told me to be somewhere at midnight. And I'm like, I wonder if there's a willow tree. So I'm sending my friends messages in Devon saying, is there a willow tree somewhere? Or can I go there tonight? So when I got to my friend's house, I'm saying he's like 73 and I'm staying at his house. And I'm like, because we met on one of these retreats. And I'm like, we're going to go on an adventure. We're going to go find a willow tree. And he's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm like, no, please. Anyway, I go to his bathroom, open up this book, I Ching book that was in the bathroom. And on one side of the page, it says, if you go to the willow tree, it's bad news. If you go to the beach, go and put your feet in the sand, it's good news. And I'd already said to my friend, maybe I need to put my feet on the sand. Where's the nearest place with sand before I'd gone to the toilet? So when I go to the toilet, there's this book with these 2 options. I just
Oh,
randomly opened it. So I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go to the sand. That's the good news. The willow tree's bad news. The sand is good news. So I come out of the bathroom. I'm like, look, Nick. And he's like, I can't believe you've just done that. I said, let's go, let's go. So I made him get his shoes on.
oh
And
my
we rushed
God,
down.
this is
I know, it's crazy. We
great.
rushed down to Paynton Beach, which is I haven't been there since I was a kid, and I've not put my feet on soil in Devon since like years and years and years ago. So we got there, and as we're driving there, all the tracks that this guy that I used to be in love with had made came on the radio on my Spotify randomly, and I'm like, I haven't heard these tracks in years. Like, what the hell? So I'm driving and they're all coming on. I'm just like, this is crazy. And I'm like, then this one and this one. There was like 4 tracks. We finally got to the destination. I go there. I take my shoes and socks off. I put my feet on the soil, on the sand in the sea. And I'm just, all this water's coming against my feet. And then this track comes on my iPhone that's called Full Circle. And it was literally the first time I put my feet on the sand in 20 something years. And I was literally at the beach that I used to go to with my nan, and I put my feet on the sand. I looked up and then you could see nothing but the clouds. And then literally before our eyes, the clouds parted and the stars that shone out. And my friend was just like, have you planned this? And I'm like, no. I'm like, and it just, every single thing about that was this signs and the synchronicities. And it was like, oh my God, I need to be in Devon. So I called my mum and dad the day after and I'm like, do you fancy moving to Devon? And they were like, yeah, maybe. So we'd spoke about it a little bit. And then like we came back home like 2 weeks later and we put the house up for sale and we're now moving to Devon. And I know that I need to be there. And it was like a calling. It was like a sign after sign. It's where I'm from originally. So we're like, let's go to Devon. And the whole family is now going to be living together in Devon. And it was just
fascinating.
Synchronicities. And I was like, I'm just following the signs. I don't know what they mean, but they all meant something. I'm going to be in Devon. And now, you know, things are moving in the way that we know they're meant to.
That is incredible. The ocean, I don't know what it is. It's the moon and the ocean. You know, whenever I do rituals, I go to the ocean or to the moon. So I used to look, now this is a crazy story. I used to look at the full moon and I feel like it's a portal to be able to talk to God sooner or something. And I always go, and I would hold my hands up and I said, where is he? I'm ready, you know? And I kept saying, just send me the best person that you can send me to do my mission. That's what I asked for. And he is really
the best person to help me do my mission.
Yeah. And to be my, you know, to like be a representation of it, you know, like our love. And this is what I wrote about him. I also suggest that you write letters to them. I had already had cards I bought. I was like, got my whole house ready in advance. And I teach this. I really felt like I was really ready for him. And when he came, it was, you know, there was all these obstacles of divorce, but it was that feeling of a connection of family love. I'm a big, and that's really one of the other things I wanted to talk about. I know we're talking about dating love, but it's really important during this time to be giving love to your friends. It's like deepening relationships, you know, like you're deepening now. You're going to go be living with your family. You're going to be like together. It's really deep. I mean, families are waking up. Love is waking up all over the world.
My mum has worked, like for my mum to wake up, and I love you dearly, Mum. I know you're watching this, but she knows I'm going to say this as well. Me and my mum haven't got on for years and years and years. Very, very similar. But through my waking up journey, I was breaking through a lot of stuff, and I was coming home, you know, spiritually just being like, right, I've gone through this and I've gone through this. You need to work on this. You need to work on this. Obviously, nobody wants to hear what they need to work on, but it was me trying to, like, you know, get through my healing. And it was really difficult for my mum, and we weren't connecting. And then now, since I came home in March, since the lockdown, we have had literally one mini fallout. We've gotten like a house on fire. It's incredible the way we've got on, but I'm not pushing her anymore. I'm relaxed in myself. She's fully supportive, and she's now started believing in what I'm doing. She even asked me the other day, she said, can you buy me the book, The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton? And I'm like, I was like, of course, absolutely fine. We've been doing the Nikola Tesla power of 3, 6, and 9, planning to sell the house within 3, 6, and 9, like working out the numbers. And she's having sound healing, vibroacoustic sound healing by one of my other guests that came on to help her with her nerve damage. All of the things, you wouldn't believe how many books I bought my mom and been like, I bought a Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. I bought her everything. Mom, and she's put coffee cups on them and just ignored the book. Now she's asking for books. Now she's willing to grow and to go there. And I've had to do nothing apart from be at home in love rather than in resistance. And now we've got the best relationship ever. And I just can't believe. And we're moving to Devon, and she's completely comfortable. And I'm using some money for the house to do some investments with, and she's completely okay with that and fully trusts me. And my financial track record's been a bit shite, to be honest. But she's like, yeah, no worries, fully supportive. And I'm teaching her things, and she's opening up to me, and it's magical.
Oh, that is
so amazing.
I can only say my mother and I were like sisters, and she died very young. I believe that she was healing. She was a healer herself. It turns out you got to go back into the history of your family. Like your mom's stuff and your stuff all relate to wiring from the lineage. And that's why you'll relate to the TEDx. But the depth of conversations that I've been stirring up in my family during COVID has been really awesome. All of us have told they all have different versions of stories, and they read my book, and none of them read it. Like I said, would you please read such and such, and they were like, I never knew this happened to you. I never knew that you saw what you saw. They all had completely different experiences of what they had from wiring. Each one of us, we all lived in the same house. You'd be surprised.
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And then years later, the healing comes. But the letters I have in here to heal your relationships and how to approach people to discuss things. And when I called this guy the other day, it was 24 years. He said, I always imagined that we would speak again. And he goes, I did look you up, and I know you're married. And then I said, well, you did break my heart, but you actually helped me with my business, because I'm teaching people how to get over people like you. And he goes, well, at least I did something good. And it ended up being a loving conversation and wishing him well. So a lot of people hold, that's why we're saying, whether it's parents who hold resentments to about love and how you saw your mom suffer and you didn't allow yourself to open up. There's all these different scenarios that I help people to break free from, because I think this is probably going to be something very important that many people, you have one part of you right here that's going, oh, I really want love. And then there's this devil on the other side, and you're like this. So one part, how much of you, that's why you got the 80% going, right? 80% and then the 20. But when people have 50-50, then they're not all in. They're never all in, right? Yeah. And then if it's imbalanced and your partner's only 30 and you're 90, then you're not in sync.
Yeah. I know what my other 20% is now. I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I'll talk to you about that off air. But there's something else that's just come up that. But we've just had a few more comments, which I'm going to read out just before we close the show. But I've been loving this. Yeah, I know. I'm loving this. So somebody said, it's funny that you've been doing this one tonight, Nat. We're 17 years married today. So that's somebody saying congratulations. And then somebody said, really happy for you, Nat. Mums can be tough, but those breakthroughs are so wonderful. Yes, they are. Indeed, and thank you so much. And also, I had a message earlier from John Matthews, said, agreed, being all in is massive. Level of truth needed to be met within first. Living in truth is a very high standard. Indeed. Yes. It really is. And that's been the essence of one of the weeks that I've been going through, is the absolute truth and the boundaries with it, which is really important. There's a whole other show there. But look, I want to say thank you so much. I love talking to you. I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours. And this will probably not be the last time that you are on I Am Sound TV, because we've got the whole channel that will be ready in a couple of weeks. So I'm sure we're going to have you back many times.
To come back. There's so much to share, because
it really is.
And they can get so much. A lot of these articles are online on my website. And if anybody would like, I'll offer people free gifts, and I'll put that link. I'll send you over a link where they can get recordings of. And then I'm doing flirting classes. If anybody's interested, I don't know what time. What time would my nighttime be? Would it be your daytime?
What time is it over there now?
Well, right now it is let me look. It is 12:27. So if I did a event at 6:30 at night, that would be 6 hours from now. So what's 6 hours for you?
Oh, that would be in bang smack in the middle of the night. So it's 8:30 here. So Yeah, 8:30 here. So you need to do it earlier. Your morning time is our kind of
So this morning time would be good, like at 11 o'clock on a Saturday.
Yeah.
If I set up a flirting class, do you think your
Yeah.
people would want to come? Ask
I
them.
think so. Yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. I've got quite a few friends that I think that would be really hilarious to do. I think I could get a good few people on that.
Well, maybe
Flirting class.
what
Let
I'll
me
do,
do that.
this is what I'm thinking, because I have one.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
I think we should do it next Saturday, or maybe
Ooh,
Saturday. I don't
next
know.
Saturday. Sunday is next Saturday. Is that actually Valentine's Day?
Sunday's Valentine's Day.
Sunday's Valentine's Day.
We could do it after Valentine's Day, because
No, I'm just thinking. I'm just wondering, like Saturday, like a workshop style, like a Zoom.
We could do a Zoom. If you want to invite all your people, we could do a Zoom.
Yeah. How many people do you reckon? Let me see if I can ring them up.
I mean, it would. I had the last one I did there was 50 people. It was a lot, but I was teaching, and then people were asking about each other. A lot of people got to meet each other. It was really cool.
That could be quite interesting. Flirting classes for pandemic flirting classes.
Flirting with life. It's called Flirting with Life.
Flirting with life.
Yeah, Flirting with Life class. Flirting with Life and networking, so they can talk about themselves. You know, like if each person did 30 seconds. I'm Bob. I live in da da da.
Yeah.
Single, you know, and I'm a broker or whatever. Real quick. Yeah. And then I teach, and then everybody gets to look at each other and ask questions. And then I talk about all the different, you know, like what signs, if somebody's interested or not, how to get ready for dating, energy exercises to do. It's really fun.
I'm gonna put something out then to see if people are up for it. If they're not up for it this within a week, which it's not like anyone's really doing anything, is it?
Nobody's doing anything. Like, why not? Like, come dressed as if you're going out on a date or meeting somebody for business. And you just kind of know, like, maybe we could do a hookup thing. Maybe we could do it monthly. We could have a
monthly. I think that would be awesome to do it monthly, because it was funny, because one of my friends was saying to me that, oh, we're not meeting anyone, you know, in the pandemic. And I said, do you know what? I agree in the sense of, yes, we're not meeting anyone. However, I had a show the other day with 3 beautiful, hot, conscious, beautiful, amazing guys, 2 of which I didn't know, one of it all together with someone else. Unfortunately, none of them were available, but it shows you that the conscious men are out there. And I literally didn't have two guests cancelled for a show. And within half an hour, 2 more had shown up. Yes, they were taken, but they were still handsome. They were still lovely, and they were still conscious, and they were still present, and they showed up instantly. So it shows you that people are out there ready and waiting to jump in and at any time. So I don't want anybody saying that nothing can happen at the moment, because it is possible.
Anything can happen, but I would be honored, you know, if anybody bought my book, please email me at Renee Piane, and I will send you your copy of the vows. And I think that it would be really cool. Maybe we could even do I'd be open to doing a free one-night Q&A class with people over there if you want, you know. And I do love readings. I do love readings too. So
we've got to do this.
Yeah. And if you write this down, it's just my website, reneepiane.com /
It's in the description.
Yeah. If you could do this, www.reneepiane.com / contact. That'll send you to a contact page. And if you're interested in coming to anything, just say flirting, or if you want a reading, or you want me to give you a free consultation, I'll talk to you on the phone for 20 minutes to see what plans you have, to give you like steps that you need. But this is one of the other things I forgot to say. Number one, by reading stuff like this, whether it's my book or not, but I think this would really help you to see if you're stuck. And also to open your heart and give you all these rituals that I'm talking about. But I have classes that I do for these things, right? And then I have radio shows and lots of blogs. So you can read all about it if you don't have a lot of money. But we'll put together something really reasonable, because it maybe.
I think we need to do this. I think we need to do something regular, Renee, is what I'm thinking. We need to kind of set something and then do something monthly, so we can monitor the progress, we can learn and grow and keep in the energy of that, rather than just a one-off. We need to think how we can make this a thing. Well, so leave it with me. We're going to do this.
I have been visioning, okay, and I've been saying, and Vanessa shows up, right? Vanessa, like you, showed up in my life, and it's almost like having an angel on your team, right?
Yeah, right. So, she's just so full on. I love it.
And I am committed to anyone out there that if your heart has an opening, just keep widening the opening, and learn all about the things that make you so juicy and happy, so that when you go, you're not just, your profile needs to have sparkle, not I'm a, such and such, and I do this. Like, I want a connection with somebody heart to heart. You have to spice up your look, your vision. And that's what I do. So if you call me, you can show me what you're doing real quick, and I can tweak it up a little bit. But we are all out there. Like, look at the magic you created. Everybody can make their own magic, but you have to believe in yourself. You have to see how percentages, and give yourself that permission. And this is my final thing this week. When you're out, if you see couples, even if people, you can't really see the expression on people's faces, but
bless them.
Just bless that. Say, I am ready for that kind of love. Look for the sparkle in a couple. If you see a sparkly couple that you see them in love, say, I see your love. I see your love, and say, and then put your hand on yourself and say, this is for me too. That's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have that kind of love. So I call it love in form. You want your love to be that form that when people see it, I mean, I know that when people always come up to us and they go, how do you guys stay like that? And I said, well, I asked for love in form, and I got it. So you can have whatever it is that you want to achieve, but it's all about you knowing thyself and being so gentle and loving with your own heart that you are letting this love come right into you, and that person will feel it. They'll feel it.
Yeah. Dropping the stories and allowing the flow. That was my
biggest.
So
if you write to me at Renee Piane contact and you want a reading or you want anything else, we can set it up on Zoom. I would highly invite you to read this, because it'll really give me some insights into how you think, because everybody's different. And you can design your love life any way you want it. It doesn't have to be like your mom and dad or your sister. It's all about you designing your life. And boy, it's such a gift when it shows up. And I can't wait, Nat, to meet your new beloved. I'm going to be meeting him.
I know. He's out there. I have absolute faith. It's all up there. And it's just waiting for me to get into alignment. Whatever it is I need to remove or come up, I ask God every day, just like, clear the way, clear the way, clear the way. That's one of my biggest mantras, is like, God, show me the way, clear the way.
How about it's cleared? I'm ready.
Yeah, that's fine. Clear the way. It's cleared. Thank you very much for clearing the way. Love it.
Go to the beach, look at the moon. Do your prayers and put all your senses into it. The way you're going to feel when he holds your hand or she's in your embrace, and I am giving away all sorts of free stuff. So you'll have to go. I'm putting a lot of stuff up today for this coming week. So
amazing.
Always check it out. And thank you. I'm excited to work with you. We'll do some fun classes coming up.
Yeah.
And
I think it's going to be, we need it.
Every day I just say, what do you want me to do? Send me the people. And then Vanessa shows up. I love you, Vanessa. I know you're probably watching us. And you are
love you too. Thank you so much. It's just, there's so much that we can do together. I have every faith in Vanessa's connections here, and this is just one of many things I know will get done, especially with I Am Sound TV. So anybody that's watching at home, thank you so much for watching this live. Anybody that's been listening to it on the radio, thank you so much for listening. And also, if you are watching this afterwards, please do get in touch with Renee. If you've got any questions, reach out. All the information is below on the YouTube channel, and also it'll be on the website. If you've been watching this on I Am Sound TV, you can go to iamsoundacademy.com, and the information will be on the website on there within our hosts section. So again, honestly, Renee, amazing to talk to you. Could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. There's so much more to share. You can't do all it. We went from topic to topic, but they're all related to each other. But it's all about you going out and spreading some love, and I promise it will come back.
Thank you. Brilliant. So Renee, stay there. For everyone else at home, I will see you tomorrow. We've got the final weekend show is tomorrow at 7 p.m. It's about sound healing. What is sound healing and all the benefits of sound healing, which I'm very excited for. But then next week, I am actually going, I've decided not to go live every single night. I'm going to have a little bit of a rest. I'm doing 3 nights a week, and I'm going Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday evenings. And the rest of the time, I'll be reprogramming my own love life and giving myself a break. That's what I'm planning to do. But yeah, thank you so much. And we will see you all tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Bye for now.